Hello, and welcome to the Entrant. The topic for today's discussion is one of the most important under Indian civil law. Damages under tort law holds great importance when it comes to questions asked in competitive exams. Let us start off by understanding a little about it. Damages under tort law. A tort is a civil wrong, which means that whenever a person commits an unlawful act under this law, the nature of the case filed in the courts is of civil nature. There are many remedies which are available to the injured person, and the most common remedy is the award of damages. Damages is that amount of money which the injured person gets from the person who caused injury to him. In a claim for damages, the person should have suffered a legal injury because in case no legal injury happens, a person cannot claim damages even if he has suffered an actual loss. It can be understood with the help of the following maxims. Injuria sine damnum. It means that there is a legal injury without any actual damage. Here, the legal right of an individual is violated. Therefore, he has a right to go to the court to enforce such a right. And damnum sine injuria, which means that there is actual damage but no legal injury, and thus the person cannot go to the court to enforce his right because he has no such right in the absence of a legal injury. Damage is the loss suffered by the person due to the wrongful act of another person, whereas damages is the amount of money which is paid as compensation for the injury suffered by a person. Damages can be primarily classified into liquidated and unliquidated damages. Liquidated and unliquidated damages are both provided whenever damage is suffered by a person because of an unlawful act by another person, and thus both are compensation paid to the injured person, but they both differ from each other. Liquidated damages are those in which the amount of compensation which has to be paid to the injured person is predetermined. It is usually paid in the case of contracts where both the parties already know each other before the damage is caused by any of them, and thus the courts only have to enforce the condition of such damages. Unliquidated damages, on the other hand, are those damages which are not predetermined, which means the amount which has to be paid is not decided before the injury happens to a person. These damages are awarded in cases of tort because often the parties to such a case do not know each other before the commission of the tort, and therefore it is not possible for them to fix the amount of compensation beforehand. The principle of optimal damages. In the law of torts, the court, while awarding damages to the injured person, makes all the possible effort to ensure that the amount or quantum of damages is optimal. It means that the damages awarded by the courts should be reasonable and sufficient, and neither insufficient or an overcompensation given to the claimant. In determining the optimal damages, the following factors are considered by the court: the nature and extent of the injury, whether the liability of the defendant is vicarious or not, the relationship between the plaintiff and the defendant. Thus, after considering the relevance of these factors, the court decides the damages which have to be paid by the defendant in case he is found guilty of tort against the plaintiff. Damages in tort. In torts, the damages which are awarded by courts to the plaintiff can be classified into several heads, namely nominal damages, contemptuous damages, compensatory damages, aggravated damages, and punitive damages. Nominal damages are those in which even though the plaintiff has suffered a legal injury at the hands of the defendant, there is no actual harm suffered by him. These damages are provided in the cases of injuria sine damnum, in which the court recognizes the violation of the right of the plaintiff, but the amount of damages are so nominal or low because of no actual loss to the plaintiff. In the case of Ashby versus White, the plaintiff was prevented from voting by the defendant, and the candidate for whom the plaintiff was going to vote still won. the plaintiff sued the defendant. It was held that even though no actual damage was suffered by the plaintiff, the defendant was still liable for preventing him from exercising his legal right to vote, and thus nominal damages were awarded in this case. Contemptuous damages. In these type of damages, the court recognizes that the right of the plaintiff is violated, but to show that the suit brought by the plaintiff is of such a trivial nature that it has only wasted the time of the court awards a meager amount to the plaintiff as damages. This is similar to the nominal damages, but the only difference between the two is that in nominal damages, the plaintiff suffers no actual loss, and in contemptuous damages, the plaintiff suffers actual damage, but it is a trivial one, in which he does not deserve to be fully compensated. It is to be distinguished from nominal damages because they are awarded when the plaintiff has suffered no loss, whereas these are awarded when the plaintiff has suffered some loss, but he does not deserve to be fully compensated. Compensatory damages are awarded to help the plaintiff to reach his original position at which he was before the tort was committed against him. These damages are not awarded to punish the defendant but to restore the plaintiff to his previous situation. These damages are very helpful in cases of monetary losses, in which the amount of loss can be easily calculated and therefore that amount can be ordered to be paid to the plaintiff so that he can replace the damaged product or goods with such amount. Aggravated damages. These damages are awarded for the extra harm which is caused to the plaintiff, which cannot be compensated by the compensatory damages, and it is given for factors such as the loss of self-esteem, pain, and agony suffered by the plaintiff, which cannot be calculated in monetary terms. These damages are therefore additional damages which are awarded to the plaintiff other than the damages awarded for his pecuniary loss. Punitive damages. These damages are also known as exemplary damages, and the purpose of these damages is to punish the defendant and to make an example of him so that others are deterred from committing the same act as he did. Thus, whenever a court feels that the act of the defendant was severely gross, it awards the punitive damages against him to the plaintiff. There are some rules which are applied in certain conditions for calculating the amount of damages in a case. Damages in case of a reduction of lifespan. Whenever due to the tort committed by the defendant, the lifespan of the plaintiff is reduced, the amount of damages which will be awarded to him is calculated without taking into consideration his social status. The damages are not provided for the loss of years of life, but are provided for a happy life. The happiness of life is calculated according to the subjective expectation of a reasonable man, and not of the expectation of the plaintiff or how he thought his life was going to be. The damages which are awarded to the plaintiff are moderate. Damages in case of death of a person. In calculating the amount of damages in cases where a person's death is caused, two theories are used by the courts. The interest theory. In the interest theory, the court determines the loss suffered by the dependent as a result of the death of the person on whom he depended. After such amount is determined, a lump sum payment is made, which is deposited, should provide that the amount of interest which is equal to the sum which has been determined by the court. The multiplier theory. In this theory, if there is any loss which is likely to occur in the future as a result of the tort committed by the defendant, that likely loss is multiplied with a multiplier which indicates the number of years for which such a loss is likely to continue, and the result of such a multiplication is the amount of damages which is awarded by the court. I hope this video was helpful in providing a simple and clear understanding of damages under torts. For any further queries, please drop your questions in the comment box below. Please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel.